Council President
Here.
Here.
Driver,
Here.
Councilmember Sweeney. Here. Councilmember Murphy,
Present.
Councilmember Middlebrooks. Here. Councilmember McClinton.
Here.
With all 7 accounted for, we will establish a quorum and move forward. I would ask everyone to please stand for the invocation to be led by our clerk and remain standing for the pledge to be led by Councilor Driver.
Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for being with each of us each day. Thank you also for being our protection, our guidance, and giving us your love. May we shine your light so others may see your glory. In the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mayor Burkado, I believe you have some acknowledgments and recognition, so turn the podium over to you.
And this evening, we have a proclamation for Park and Recreation Month, and I would like for Aaron Coball, the director, and all of our employees and any board members, if they would come forward and be presented this proclamation. Real quick.
Whereas parks and recreation are an essential part of communities across the country, including the city of Hoover, providing spaces and programs that enhance quality of life for all. And whereas the City of Hoover Parks and Recreation Department exists to unite the community by offering enriching opportunities that serve everyone, embodying the spirit of this year's national theme, Build Together, Play Together. And whereas Parks and Recreation support the health and well-being of residents of all ages through physical activity, mental wellness, and opportunities for social connection. And whereas Parks and Recreation also drive economic development, attract tourism, protect environmental resources, and strengthen community identity. And whereas the Hoover Parks and Recreation Department provides residents and visitors with access to diverse recreational programs, including facilities, trails, green spaces, and community events that reflect the values and needs of our growing city. And whereas the department's dedicated team of professionals, volunteers, and partners work tirelessly to ensure that Hoover's parks and programs are safe, welcoming, and enriching for all, helping to build a more vibrant and connected community. And whereas July is recognized nationwide as Parks and Recreation Month, a time to celebrate the power of parks to bring people together, inspire play, and strengthen the bonds that make our cities thrive. Now, therefore, we, Frank Brocado, Mayor, and John B. Lyda, City Council President, and on behalf of the Hoover City Council, do hereby proclaim July 2025 as Parks and Recreation Month in the City of Hoover, and encourage all residents to recognize the vital role Parks and Recreation play in our community, and to join us in celebrating how we build together, play together.
Good evening. Thank you for the recognition. We like to think every month is Park and Rec Month because of all the things we offer for our residents and visitors. We've got a wide variety of things that we offer each and every day, activities, programs from toddlers to seniors, everything in between. We have over 30 parks and public spaces. So our challenge to everyone before the end of the month is to try something new. Try a new activity, visit a new park you haven't been to before. Just try something new and see something that you haven't seen before. We've got a lot of team members here that work hard each and every day for our community that would love to tell you about something new to do. So see one of them if you'd like to. And then I would like to thank you all for all the support you give us each and every day so we can serve our community in this way. And I would like to thank our park board members and our Park and Recreation Foundation members that support us throughout each day as well. And now I would like to invite Lynn Cummings to make some remarks. She's our park board president.
Thank you, Erin. First of all, I want to thank Mayor, City Council, all of you so very much for recognizing, and I'd like to thank our board members and all of Erin's team. They are such a pleasure to work with each month, and there's several of us on the board that have been doing this for a number of years, and it's always been a pleasure. And we just thank you so very much in giving us this time and this recognition.
I believe Ms. Cornett now has a financial update for us.
Good evening, members of the council, Mayor Picato. My name is Stephen Von Hagel, and I'm an assurance member with BMSS. You all are used to seeing Keith Barfield with a much longer beard than I have. Keith is retired, and I've taken on the responsibilities that he had. BMSS, we are proud of the longstanding relationship with the city of Hoover and serving as your external auditor. The fiscal year 2024 audit report, which Jennifer's about to present, showed an unmodified opinion, which translates to the highest level of assurance we can give on the city's financial statements. Our issue date was almost 2 months ahead of the issue date for fiscal year 23, and we are pleased to report no disagreements with city management related to the audit, and we are very grateful to Mayor Picato, Jennifer Cornett, and the entire accounting and finance staff, members who aided our team in a professional manner. We would like to turn things over to Jennifer now.
Okay, I'd like to direct council's attention to the bound copies of the ACFR, our annual comprehensive financial report. You will notice there are some colorful flags on the pages. The information that's going to be on the PowerPoint, just so you don't have to turn around and crane your head to look at that screen, you can see the actual pages in the report. But a summary set of information has been prepared for this delivery of this information publicly. Okay, so first of all, on the next slide, I'd like to first of all thank BMSS for being patient with us over the last couple of years. I have been very grateful to have repeat auditors here who had information just related to the city that they could help us connect dots. And so very thankful for the extra time and attention. And of course, their knowledge of all of our staff. Pretty much everybody in the finance department participated in some way with the information requests. So I want to thank really everybody in the finance department. There were a handful of key contributors, one of which is here tonight, Melissa Woods. You recognize that name from years past, but also Claire Hamilton and Bradley Nestor were really in the trenches in providing most of the information, answering questions, that kind of thing. So a big shout out to them for hanging in there and wrapping up this engagement. So a link to the actual ACFR is embedded into that PowerPoint slide, this will be uploaded to the website, and then a live link direct to the ACFR will be there as well. But before we get too much into the actual ACFR, I kind of wanted to just go over the three parts real quick. This is a really big report. It's fat. There's 166 pages. There's 3 sections, and I'm really going to hit maybe 6 of the pages of the 166 that represent the financial pieces. But really, this whole report is a comprehensive. It gives you comprehensive information about the city's financial position. We have the letter of transmittal And also, your names are in the report as the elected officials that presided over the city and the decision-making. We did get the GFOA annual award, and I wanted to go ahead and talk about what that is. The GFOA Certificate of Excellence, Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. This is given by the Government Finance Officers Association, so the GFOA. It is the highest form of recognition in governmental accounting and financial reporting. And the purpose of this award is to recognize governments who publish an easily readable and efficiently organized comprehensive financial report that meets the program standards, which includes keeping in line with generally accepted accounting principles, GAAP, legal requirements, and also demonstrating a spirit of full disclosure. And so we did receive the GFOA award. That's always awarded in arrears. So this was based on our 2023 report, and we've submitted an application and are hopeful that we will get the award again based on what is presented to you tonight in the form of the 2024 ACFR. So we have these three sections. The financial section is where you're going to find the independent auditor's report, where Stephen mentioned having a report that has that is offered at the highest level of assurance is huge for the city, and so we're certainly happy to have that. The management discussion and analysis is really a nice summary of what happened during the year. It is management's spin, so to speak, on the things that happened financially to the city. So if you're up for a quick read or you want a quick study on what's been going on with the city and what's contained in the report, probably reading the management discussion and analysis, and then looking at the basic financial statements in connection with the notes to the financial statements, which a lot of people don't ever want to look at. But those notes really do a great job of explaining kind of what's behind the numbers and can really give you some quality information there. The final section is the statistical section, okay? So tonight, I'm really going to spend most time looking at the basic financial statements, referencing those notes. So to that end, on the next slide, I'd like to talk about the statement of net position. So this statement is what we often refer to as the government-wide financial statements. It provides a comprehensive view of the overall financial health and is really used to assess the long-term financial stability of the city. So it's the statement of net position where you're going to find the long-lived assets, right? So all of the assets and infrastructure of the city, along with the related accumulated depreciation. That's kind of a distinguishing mark of the statement of net position over the balance sheet for the governmental funds. That's kind of one of the differences. The other difference is that is where our debt sits. So all of our long-term debt sits at the government-wide. So those two things represent the biggest differences in the statement of net position and then the governmental financial statements that we're going to look at in a minute. So pages 36 to 37 is where you're going to find the statement of net position and the statement of activities. Our total net position for the year was $325.6 million. This was a decrease of $5.1 million or 1.6% over last year. And our net position for governmental activities was broken down by for governmental activities, 318.6, and then business type activities, which includes our proprietary funds of $6.9 million. When we look at our net position, this also includes $277.4 million of total net investment in capital assets. Okay, so on the next slide, as we take a look, and this would be on page 36 of your books, you see the statement here is presented as a summarized presentation. So all the current assets, all the non-current assets are grouped together and not outlined here on the slide. But in the actual report that you have in front of you, you'll see those differences. So one of the things I want to point out about the total assets for the city, the total assets include your current assets, rather, of $267.7 million. Of those current assets, $240.9 million of that is pooled cash and investments. Okay, so your current assets for the city are very liquid, 240 out of 267. When we look at the non-current assets, that's where you're going to see your capital assets net of depreciation. So $391 million of capital assets are sitting there in the non-current asset category that's shown here for a total of $660 million in total assets at the government-wide level. When you look at your liabilities, so let's talk about that. Your liabilities are going to include, again, our long-term debt is going to be included in this. It's a pretty big number, total liabilities of $385 million. So this debt captures all kinds of debt, okay, including pension liability, other pension employment benefits liability, both of which are pretty big, compensated absence liabilities. Those are really substantial amounts. Also in that number, you're going to find our notes payable and our bonds payable, okay? So at the end of the year, we had a total of $183 million in bonds payable. 167 of that existed in the general fund, and about 16 million of that was in the sewer fund. For notes payable, also included in the total liability number, $4.9 million in various notes payable. And that also included $5.3 million worth of lease liabilities. So on the next page, you will see the statement of activities. And one of the things about this statement on page 38 in your books is to show that we do have some program revenues that come in and defray the costs of taking care of the government activities. But as we can see, that is not enough to be able to take care of all of the government activity expenditures that we have for the city. So that is why we need revenues from the city. So we're talking about tax dollars, right, to support the city. Again, net position, end of year for governmental activities was $318.6 million. And the business type activities, net position at the end of the year was 6.9. Okay. So moving on to talk about the governmental funds, okay? And the governmental funds statements include both a balance sheet and a statement of revenue, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. In a minute, when we look at that statement, you're going to notice that the format of that looks a lot like the financial statements that are delivered to you on the interim. So we really use on a day-to-day basis to govern the city, the government funds statements to be able to do that. Okay, so these statements provide information about the flow and availability of resources for spending in the near term, right? So we have a short-term focus here on the fiscal management of the city. So on the government fund statement, we have pooled cash investments of $223 million at the general fund level, right? And that is the fund where all of the expenditures that are paid out to run the government come out of. We ended with $81.3 million in the general fund. Our total fund balance for all governmental funds was $224.8 million, and that's going to include our capital projects funds, okay, and also our bond funds from the 2023 issue. And then the general fund revenues ticked up almost 6% this year to $181.3 million. And we posted an excess of revenues over expenditures of a little over $21 million. So as we look at the next slide, where we have the balance sheet for the governmental funds, right? There's our columns for each of our fund balances. The general fund on the far left, again, that is the main fund that we use to provide resources to run the city. Capital projects is a separate fund, right? It represents amounts that have been designated towards particular projects at the approval of council, so we keep track of those there and account for those in a separate fund. We have the bond funds, right? So what's remaining of those bond proceeds and the fund balance there in another column. And then our non-major governmental funds include those special revenues that are those earmarked funds for particular purposes and some of our non-major grant funds. So all four of those are rolled together in those total government funds that you see at the right. So from a total governmental fund standpoint, we ended up $247.6 million. In total liabilities and fund balance, $224.8 million in total fund balance. But you see the respective fund balances, 81.3 for the general fund, 55.9 for the capital projects, 70.5 for the bond funds, and then 17.1 for the non-majors there. One of the things that I wanted to comment about, because on this statement you see different categories of fund balance with different naming conventions, and I kind of wanted to explain what those were. So we have restricted, committed, assigned, and unassigned. Okay, so restricted means that there is some outside body that has said this is what you have to do with these funds. Okay, so when we look across that line for restricted and we see the 70.5 million under the bond funds, that's restricted for the purposes of that official statement from when we issued the bonds. Has to be used for those capital projects that were identified in that OS and then modified later by council. And under the non-major governmental funds, the $17.3 million, remember those are special revenues for particular purposes coming in from outside of here, designated for particular purposes. So that's where our restricted funds are, okay, are in the bond fund and in the non-majors. Our committed funds, so committed funds represent formally committed by this body funds for particular purposes. So that's why the capital projects fund balance is shown as committed, because you guys said, hey, we're committing this amount of money to be able to do these particular projects, okay? And then the amount of commitment in the general fund that is committed is the budget stabilization fund that was still in place at the end of 2024. Assigned, the last category. Okay, so assigned means earmarked for a particular purpose, okay, but not really set in stone, but earmarked. Okay, so this is where you're going to find, and I think I even have a page number earmarked for you. See if I can find it. I did not earmark the page number. Okay, I can find it for you later. But a good amount of money has been earmarked for library. 2.9 million of it is earmarked for recreation services. And then there's 2.4 in total earmarked for public safety, and that's due to the federal inmate funds and also the emergency transport services that the fire department does, okay? So that's what makes up those categories in case you were wondering. On the next slide, and again, this is the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance for government funds, right? So each of those four classes of funds that we just talked about, reflecting the revenues, the expenditures, and really the explanation of how those fund balances changed. So for our total government funds, our revenues were $199.5 million, and we had total expenditures of $212. Now that is a sum of all of those funds. So really, I think it's really better to look at the funds in isolation to see how each of those funds is doing. The general fund itself posted a almost $2 million excess of revenues over expenditures. Now, there were a number of adjustments that happened to that excess related to transfers, related to accounting for proceeds from sale of capital assets and the issuance of leases, and our SPEDA leases as well. But the point is that our general fund balance changed by $10.5 million during the year. So it went from $70.8 million to $81.4 million. With our capital projects fund and both our bond funds, notice the net change in fund balance is a negative number. This is something that you would expect to see if you were working aggressively on your capital projects and spending down those funds, right? The amount that comes into capital projects specifically usually comes in by way of transfer from the general fund. And we were real careful this past year to kind of wrap up some of the projects that we had in the works and not allocate dollars to new projects. With the bond funds, we know we got all those funds in whenever we issued the bonds in 2023, and so we should expect that fund balance to kind of come down as we spend those funds. Okay, on the next slide, okay, we're getting close, the proprietary funds, all right? So these are funds that operate a lot like a business. We use the accrual basis of accounting. That's what makes these, the presentation of the proprietary fund statements look a little bit different. Our two types of funds that we have here are enterprise and internal service funds. And underneath the enterprise umbrella, we have the sewer and the redevelopment fund. And then the internal service funds are those funds that are used to really serve the city. So we have two health insurance funds because we're self-insured, one for active employees and one for retirees. We have a workers' comp fund and then a property and casualty fund. So on the next slide, the balance sheet, right, for our enterprise funds is shown here. With the sewer, let's take the sewer first. So most of the assets in the sewer, it's probably not a big surprise, would be infrastructure, long-term asset related, okay? So that's mostly what makes up the total assets in the sewer. And likewise, the total liabilities, mostly what makes up total liabilities is the debt, the outstanding bond debt on the sewer, right? So the total net position of the sewer at the end of the year ended up almost $6.9 million. There's $68,000 left in the redevelopment fund that is yet to be determined what council would like to do with that, bringing our business type activities total net position to 6.9. And then our internal service funds all taken together total $4.8 million in total net position. On the next slide, you'll see the revenues, expenditures, and changes in net position for these proprietary funds. So one of the things in particular that's interesting with sewer is that this year our revenues increased by almost $444,000 over last year, a 9.5% increase. Now keep in mind these are collections, right, for sewer. And we believe that this is the result of the graduated rate increases that were enacted a few years ago, finally catching up and coming in. So our revenues were a little bit more than last year, and then our expenditures also were $374,000 less. That can be a little misleading because it predominantly was there was a lower charge for depreciation. So as our assets in the sewer depreciate more, then there's less available life to use up, and those depreciation charges kind of come down over time. But the combination of more revenues and less expenses for this year meant that there was a $90,000 loss in the sewer. So we ended net position for the sewer $6.8 million. In the redevelopment fund, you might remember, so $1 million of that was transferred out to the general fund to pay the cash incentive for, or partially pay for part of the cash incentive for Riverwalk the first year. So that's now down to $68,232 for a total of the $6.9 for enterprise funds. And then our internal service funds ended at the $4.8 million. On the next slide, have a summary. So all in all, the city has a decent economic outlook with our unemployment rate being below state and metro averages. The expectation is that residential and commercial development will help maintain revenues that are coming into the city. And definitely a conservative budget philosophy will help aid with that. Wanted to point out, kind of in closing, the city still maintains its good bond rating. So we have a AAA from Standard & Poor's and an AA1 from Moody's. That has not changed. And then the last point that I wanted to make was about the constitutional debt limit. So this is a calculation that's always required whenever you go to market to issue new bonds. Constitutional debt limit relates to the total amount that you could borrow. No city in their right mind should ever borrow their constitutional debt limit. I would argue they would not be able to survive. But, so I need to say that. But that limit is basically set at 20% of the assessed value of the city. Our debt that's applicable to that limit is 192, so we have a margin between the constitutional debt limit and where we are right now of 382 million, which I would call pretty healthy. So that was a lot of information. Y'all have some questions?
Are there any questions or comments for Ms. Cornett? Seeing none, I know there's a lot of reading material here, far more than she went over tonight.
It is a lot. I did flag some of the note disclosures that I thought might be of interest to y'all. So particularly related to the debt, Councilman McClinton was interested in that, and so I flagged that so that you could see that. One of the questions that might be in your mind would be, is there a way to lower the amount of debt that the city has? Because I know there has been some conversation and some concern about that in certain circles. And so one of the things that I wanted to point out related to borrowings with bonds and long-term borrowings. So long-term borrowings, until there is a call provision, you're kind of locked into the payments that you make. And so the payments that we made, our debt service this year was higher than it's been. That was not the result of decisions that were made this year or the year before that, but was rather a combination of decisions made from the past that set those wheels, those things in motion. And so in looking at our bond debt, we do have a couple of bond issues should we decide that we wanted to retire some debt that would be callable, right? And what that means is that we could stop the interest and pay those bonds off. So one of them is the 2014 bonds, which are attached to the sewer. And I don't think that I would recommend that the city use general fund revenues to just pay off the sewer debt, okay, for that reason. The other one is the 2020 bond issue. There is an amount that is callable, but the incremental borrowing rate on that is less than 1%. And right now we're enjoying a much higher rate of return on investments. And so it'd be hard for me to argue to retire either one of those. The rest of the bonds they're not callable for a while. We could extinguish the debt of our notes payable if y'all wanted to for a little under $5 million. Okay, so that would be an option. Our notes payable, if we don't borrow any more money, which I will not want to recommend, but our notes payable will fully pay out, and I think the last one pays out in 2027. But that could be a choice if we wanted to lower our debt on our balance sheet and go ahead and stop the interest on those. That would be an option. I'm trying to think. There was one other concern about the proceeds from leases possibly inflating our fund balance. And one of the things I want to say about that is I know that when we do the GASB 87 requires you to book a right-of-use asset and a right-of-use liability. And then you also, at the fund level, record the lease proceeds and capital outlay, okay? And the effect of both of those things is a wash on the balance sheet and a wash on the statement of activities. So while it might look like the lease proceeds is kind of buoying up the general fund balance, it's not really true because there's capital outlay that's been subtracted and the expenditures to offset that. So I was just trying to think if there were any other questions that I had heard from individual folks over the last bit. Yeah.
Well, since you mentioned it, how much is the sewer debt currently if we were to pay it off?
So the sewer debt, right, is on your report, 16.3 million.
How much?
16.3 million. and
I
sewer
think-
debt.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Very good. This report is online and available for the public to see, so if you'd like to go and get this exact book, you're more than welcome to online immediately.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cornett. We'll now move to the consent agenda, which, of course, is presented as a block of items. We will have each item read and voted on with one motion and one vote, unless, of course, a member of the body or a member of the public would like an item removed. I'd ask first if any member of the body would like items 1 through 11 to be removed.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. If we should remove items 7 and 10.
7 and 10, absolutely. Any other items from the council? Very good. Any member of the public here would like to remove any item from the consent? Yes, sir?
I'd like to remove payment of the bill.
Item number 1, item 1, 7, and 10. Any other member of the public here for any item on the consent? All right, Mr. Corley, if you'll read the consent agenda items with the exception of 1, 7, and 10, please.
Item 2 approves the minutes from the June 23rd, 2025 council meeting. Item number 3, Resolution 850325 approves a 020 restaurant retail liquor alcohol license for J&B VH LLC, doing business as Bonds, located at 3601 Market Street, Suite 101, Hoover, Alabama. Resolution 850425 approves a 160 special retail more than 30 days alcohol license for Tap Ends LLC, doing business as Tap Ends, located at 5844 LC Road, Hoover, Alabama. Resolution 8505-25 approves a 040 retail beer on or off premises and 060 retail table wine on or off premises alcohol license for Ho Real Estate LLC, doing business as Umi Sushi Poke, located at 2539 John Hawkins Parkway, Suite 141, Tattersall Boulevard, Hoover, Alabama. Resolution 850925 accepts reimbursement from the United States Secret Service for the Celebrite software in the amount of $10,150 and amends the budget for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2025, as shown in Exhibit A to the resolution. Resolution 8508-25 amends the budget for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2025, as shown in Exhibit A to the resolution, to provide for Hoover Metropolitan Complex improvements in the amount of $145,000. Item 9, Resolution 8512-25 authorizes Mayor Brocato, the Hoover Fire Chief, and the Hoover Chief Financial Officer to execute a memorandum of understanding with the Center for Public Safety Excellence for the purpose of pursuing accreditation from the Commission on Fire Accreditation International. This resolution further authorizes the appointment of an individual to serve as accreditation manager who shall have successfully completed the CPSC's Quality Improvement for Fire and Emergency Services Workshop and the Peer Assessment Workshop. Item 11, Resolution 851425 authorizes Mayor Brocato to execute a service agreement with the Miss Hoover Foundation. And that concludes the consent agenda.
Second.
Have a motion and approval, or I'm sorry, motion and a second for approval of the consent. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. We'll now take up item number 1, the payment of bills. Entertain a motion for the payment.
Mr. President, I move to pay the bills.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for payment. Any questions or comments from the body? Any comments from the public? Yes, sir.
Paul Hammrick, Middlebrook. I'm going to put aside my cynical ways. There's been a lot of more information provided on the payment of bills, and I think as long as that's a process that's beginning, a step in the right direction as opposed to a final, I think that's good. There's still not enough information to really determine if appropriate bills are being paid. And there's a story that was on the local news station just in the last 2 days about how all these audits are revealing credit card abuse in all these cities, everything from Amazon to Disney Plus. And I still don't understand what the approval process is or who's looking at these. But there's 2 parts of this. One's going forward, and hopefully we're starting to pay more attention to that. But there's also the issue of going backwards. And I think when the new finance director started, she recommended there be an outside audit, and that really hasn't happened. There was this Kroll audit that very specifically limited what they had access to, and yet they still concluded that the environment of the city finances is ripe for fraud to occur. And what I would like to ask the council to do is, Mr. Latta, if you would draft a letter, and ideally every member of the council sign it, and send it to the examiners of public accounts and ask them to come do a proper audit of the city funds, I think that'll settle everything and put it to rest if there isn't any problems. And I'm glad that BMS is apparently back. They're a very fine audit accounting firm, but I noticed they're quoted in the paper saying that the type of audit they do does not even look at fraud. So I would hope by next week you can tell us that you've sent a letter to the examiners of public accounts, and I've spoken to them, and that's all it'll take for them to begin an audit. Real quickly, I don't know when the last time the city had a bond rating review. I think it was probably well before all this Riverwalk stuff and a lot of the indebtedness. I think it was probably before the reserves were rated, which I'm curious on the bond funds, there's $70 million in the account unspent. But yet there was something about it being too late to build a performing arts center. That just doesn't add up. I know a good bit of that bond money is supposed to be for the Diamond Exchange, and there's not even a final engineering plan for that. If it can be built, the Performing Arts Center could be built with the bond funds. It just doesn't add up. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments tonight on the payment of bills? We have a motion and a second for approval. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries. Item number 7, resolution number 8510-25, Mr. Corley.
This resolution amends the budget for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2025, as shown in Exhibit A, to transfer $50,000 from the Alsire Road project to the Old Columbiana Road sidewalk project.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 8510-25.
Second. A motion and a second for approval. Councilor Middlebrooks.
Yes, sir. Ms. Cornett, you mentioned $57 million allocated on citywide capital projects. You know, so last week I was driving down Highway 150 and noticed a lady pushing a stroller along 150, and I recalled the sidewalk that we had approved for that area. So I had to call up and check on the status of that. So I say all that to say I'm asking for 2 quarterly reports to begin. One is a citywide capital projects list with the original allocated monies, and then as they finish up, what they finished up as. So as in this project, budgeted funds came in higher than the actual cost of the sidewalk. That occurs, thankfully, often enough where I think it would benefit the council to have that information, see what capital projects have finished and what came in over budget. So we have those funds to put something else. Just a quarterly report is what I'm asking.
Any other comments or questions?
Second,
Yes, sir.
there's one other quarterly report along the same lines of helping the council make these decisions going forward pertains to the incentive agreements. So we may have future incentive agreements, and it's a concern that we don't want to overextend ourselves too far in the future. So I would also like a quarterly report on all incentive agreements, and with the original, time period, say 5 or 10 years, original maximum rebate, and then where they currently stand, how many years are left, how much is left in the rebate. I think that'll help us make decisions.
Very good. Yeah, yes, sir. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Any comments from the public on the item? There's a motion and second for approval on the table. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, and the motion carries. Item number 10, resolution number 8513-25, Mr. Corley.
This resolution authorizes the application by the Hoover Fire Department for the FEMA Staffing and Adequate Fire Emergency Response Grant. This resolution further authorizes Mayor Brocato and Chief Bentley to take all necessary administrative steps to apply for this grant.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 8513-25.
Second. A motion and second for approval. Dr. Middlebrooks.
Yes, sir. So with this, I would first like to commend Chief Bentley, Hoover Fire Department. Look, a few years ago, maybe 4 years ago, we got notice that private ambulance services would no longer be available in the city of Hoover, almost on a day's notice. However, the Hoover Fire Department did not skip a beat. They put in an extra transport unit the very next day. But to do that, they robbed personnel from your engine companies to staff that extra transport. Keep in mind, the city of Hoover runs, for the last 4 years, 4 transport units, with 1 in reserve, I believe. City of Vestavia, with close to a third of our population, close to a third of our land mass, runs 4 transport units. Chief, so I've commended you, and now I'd like to apologize to you. So for the last few years, you have been asking for funding for a new transport unit to get us up to 5. And we have not valued that request enough, in my opinion. So I hope you get this FEMA staffing grant to get us up to 5 transport units. These are long hours, stressful hours. I think this will make a huge difference. I'm also going to challenge this body to restock, resupply those engine companies that we stole those personnel from. So I'm going to recommend that you ask for 7 more come budget season. Because right now, the engine crews that we stole those personnel from have been a huge benefit to our community. But those engine crews are also at a disadvantage. And it puts our public at a disadvantage. So, thank you.
Any other comments tonight? Any comments from the public? We have a motion and second for approval. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries. We'll now move to the regular agenda, beginning with item number 12, resolution number 8506-25. Mr. Corley.
This resolution declares Casey Middlebrooks duly elected to the office of City Council, Place 6, for the term of office commencing on the first Monday in November 2025, and authorizes Mayor Brocato to issue a certificate of election to Casey Middlebrooks for the office of City Council, Place 6.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 8506-25.
Second. A motion and second. Councilor Middlebrooks will be abstaining, if I understand.
Yes, sir.
Any comments or questions from the body? Any comments from the public? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, motion carries. Item number 13, resolution number 8507-25. Mr. Corley.
This resolution declares Steve McClinton duly elected to the office of City Council, Place 7, for the term of office commencing on the first Monday in November 2025, and authorizes Mayor Brocato to issue a certificate of election to Steve McClinton for the office of City Council, Place 7.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 8507-25.
Second. Motion and second. Councilor McClinton will be abstaining, if I understand. Any questions or comments from the body? Any comments from the public? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries. Item number 14, resolution number 8515-25. Mr. Corley.
Resolution 8515-25 approves a purchasing policy and procedures manual for the City of Hoover as shown in the attached Exhibit A.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 8515-25.
Second. We have a motion and second for approval. Any questions or comments from the body on the item?
I do have a question, Mr.
ma'am.
President. The version that is in our packet, there's a headliner on it that says rough draft from June of 2025. Is that indeed the final draft, or is there a version after this one?
Yes.
Can you elaborate?
I wish I could see what was up there. Yeah, it is the final. Yeah, I know it says rough draft. We did not take that header off because we wanted to wait until it was approved to call it not a draft. So,
I'll just ask the question slightly different way.
Okay.
Do you have any changes that you and your staff wish to make to the June 2025 version?
we do not.
Make it final.
We do not. Okay.
Any
was my
other questions or comments from the body? Any comments from the public
is a
tonight
good
on item
question.
14?
I would like, I know we talked about this during work session, but I know there's been some concern about the processes that are used for payments, and so I thought this might be a good time to kind of talk about it. So this policy and procedures manual is now a memorialized version of what the processes were already happening. Okay, so the point of having this was to have our processes memorialized and have responsibilities clearly delineated between who is responsible for what and who is looking at what. And so just generally speaking with this policy, the departments, so it's at the department level where requisitions are made, and it goes through a variety of approval processes in the approval chain. Some approval chains are 5 different levels of approvals, depending on the amount and depending on the nature of the fund that you're talking about. So when I say goes through an approval process, it does happen in our accounting system, but there are backup documentation that is added for each level of review to approve. So the department head approves it, and then it moves on and comes through purchasing and gets approved. That process is a good process, and it is the same process that we follow anytime charges are made either on the American Express for the city or on other city credit cards, which we only have 8 or 9 of those that are distributed. But in each case, every purchase that is made, there is a requisition and approval process to document that those were approved expenditures. And I can speak from experience because I went on a trip and I didn't save my the right Starbucks receipt, and I had to write a check to the city because there's nothing that gets past this procurement team in making sure that their I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. So this is a good policy that I think establishes what the responsibilities are, who's doing what. It also gives us a little bit of legs so that when there's new people that are entering the procurement process, that they have kind of a handy manual to kind of know what it is when they're pushing that approve button, what that means, right? So this is a good step towards having documentation about the processes that we follow so that we make sure that we're spending public dollars appropriately. So I'm really proud of the team that put this together. It took a lot of work. It's been through multiple internal reviews, power user reviews. So.
Thank you, Ms. Cornett. Any other comments from the body? Any comments from the public tonight prior to the vote? Yes.
Paul Hammrick from Middlebrook again, and I just wanted to clarify, I think it's great these procedures are in place now, but they weren't here for the last several years. And the Kroll audit says there were papers missing, documents missing that couldn't be restored, and an environment for fraud existed. I hope it goes great going forward, but I think an examiner's of public accounts audit would make everyone feel better and know what was going on the last couple of years, because there's obviously a lot of missing issues or little blank spots that I'd like to get filled in. Thank you.
Any other comments? Let's have a vote. We have a motion and a second for approval. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? The ayes have it, the motion carries. Item 15, resolution number 8516-25, Mr. Gordon.
This resolution approves an employee travel reimbursement policy and procedure for the city of Hoover, shown in Exhibit A.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 8516-25.
Second. Have a motion and a second for approval. Ms. Cornett, do you have
Yes,
anything to add
again,
other than birthday?
I wanted to elaborate on the travel policy that, again, this is another attempt to memorialize good practices that are already in place. Not a whole lot of heavy lifting or change was made, but we did clarify some things, updated the language to reflect actual modes of transportation that still exist. And so again, the travel reimbursement policy addresses what is permitted to be reimbursed to employees when they travel, okay? And again, we work through the requisition process and turn in receipts, and there's an elaborate review of those receipts that goes through multiple levels of approval. So again, this is a demonstration of, a documentation rather of what is already being done. And I just want to clarify something on the former point on the other policy, and that is that this was to memorialize a process that was in place. Under no circumstance did the Kroll review indicate that we did not have appropriate backup for transactions. So that was other files that didn't have to do with our financial accounting system. So the material change to this policy was we did increase the daily amount. Previously, it had been $40 for in-state for the whole day, and $65 for out-of-state if you were traveling. And so it's kind of hard to get 3 meals in Washington, D.C. for $65 a day. So we upped the daily limit to $85. And again, this is not a per diem. This is where receipts have to be attached, detailed receipts, and there will be questions if there's 2 coffees on your receipt and you're just one person. So, again, these are detailed receipts and expense requests that are submitted.
Very good. Any questions or comments from Ms. Cornett on the item?
Yeah, Mr. President, a similar question to the last item, just for clarity on the record. This item is also marked as draft July 2025.
Yes.
Is that the final draft that you wish for this body to
Yes.
approve?
We would like to approve this document and then call it adopted. And it'll be a final policy.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Driver. Any other comments? Any questions from the public on this item? Yes, sir.
Ken King, Rossbridge Parkway. I'm listening and I'm a little confused. I'm hoping you can add some clarity, Ms. Cornett. So the award that the city received 2023, I'm assuming that was shortly or after you got here, you saw that the processes and procedures were so exemplary that you submitted the city of Hoover for a recognition or an award from some type of body or organization that recognizes the gold standard in terms of accounting processes. Am I so far so good?
Ms. Cornett.
All right. So then you submit the city in recognition for this, and then shortly after that, ask for a forensic audit, because you have some questions around the processes that are currently in place. So they conduct a forensic audit and then find the city ripe for fraud. And so today we stand up and pat ourselves on the back because in 2023, we apparently had processes that were recognized by an organization, but yet a few months later, we were found that we had a bunch of processes that were failing, that weren't adequate. In fact, I recall, part of the last 6 months, what you've been doing is basically standing up, giving a full report about the things that we've changed and all the things that we addressed in the Kroll audit. So I'm just trying to figure out which one is it. Initially, things are so great, let's submit the city for an award, get up here tonight, pat ourselves on the back. 2023 process were above standard, and we should be so proud of the work we were doing prior to 2023, which is the same period of time that the Kroll audit found major defaults and deficiencies. So help me reconcile those things. And again, I know Mr. Light won't allow you to speak, but it's a fair question. How do you ask to be awarded and then ask for a forensic audit that we are found to be ripe for fraud, and then stand up tonight again and say, let's be celebratory about what we were able to do leading up to 2023? Which one is it? Was the prior CFO that it appears you've been trying to lay all the inadequacies of your department at their feet for the last 6 months? Were they running a stellar operation or not? because I'm confused at this point. I don't understand how we are awarded an award and then 6 months later found to be ripe for fraud. And then stand up tonight, after we spent the last 6 months trying to fix those problems, pat ourselves on the back for an award we got in 2023. Amazingly confusing. Again, maybe one of you guys can help me understand it better. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? We have a motion and a second for approval. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. With unanimous vote, the resolution is approved. Item 16, resolution number 851725, Mr. Corley.
This resolution accepts 3 deeds for dedication of properties for recreational use to the city of Hoover, Alabama, acknowledging use restrictions and restrictive covenants thereon, and authorizing the placement of restrictive covenants on the Fleming Park property.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 8517-25.
Second. We have a motion and a second for approval. Any comments from the body? Any comments from the public? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. We'll now have a series of public hearings where Mr. Martin will come and wow us with progress on grass and weeds, beginning with item number 17, resolution number 8518-25, Mr. Corley.
This resolution declares a weed nuisance and directs the abatement of such weed and other vegetation nuisance on the property located at 425 Shades Avenue, Hoover, Alabama.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 8518-25.
Second. We have a motion and a second. We, of course, discussed this on Thursday night. Mr. Martin agreed to come back and update us on any that we had seen progress on. And I know we do have one coming up that has progressed, but I take it, Mr. Martin, that number 17 at 425 Shades Avenue has not made progress.
The only progress here is the growth of the weeds and grass.
That is, it's progressed, as Mr. Posey says. Any questions or comments from the body on this item? This is a public hearing, so we will ask if any member of the public here is here to speak at the public hearing on behalf of 425 Shades Avenue. If none, we will close the public hearing. We have a motion and second for approval. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Item number 18, it's my understanding, Mr. Martin, that 2045 Crosscrest Drive has been cut to your and your staff's approval.
That is correct. This one has been self-corrected, 2045 Crosscrest Drive, and no longer in need of abatement.
We will entertain a motion to withdraw resolution number 851925.
Mr. President, I move to withdraw resolution number 8519-25.
Second. We have a motion and second for withdrawal. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Ayes have it, and the motion carries. Item number 19, resolution 8520-25, Mr. Corley.
This resolution declares a weed or other vegetation nuisance and directs the abatement of such nuisance on the property located at 2413 Regent Circle, Hoover, Alabama.
Mr. President, I move for the approval of resolution number 8520-25.
Second. Have a motion and second for approval.
Yes, sir. This location is still in violation of our weed and grass ordinance.
Very good. We will open the public hearing and ask if any member of the body would like to speak on this item. If none, any member of the public here to speak on 2413 Regent Circle? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing and have a vote. We have a motion and second for approval. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The motion carries. Item number 20, resolution number 8521-25, Mr. Corley.
This resolution declares a weed and other vegetation nuisance and directs the abatement of such nuisance on the property located at 3456 Blueberry Lane, Hoover, Alabama.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 8521-25.
Second. Have a motion and second for approval, Mr. Martin.
Yes, sir. This property is also still in violation as of today.
Looks it. Any comments from the body on the item? Any member of the public here for the public hearing regarding 3456 Blueberry Lane? We will close the public hearing. We have a motion and second for approval. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The motion carries. Item number 21, resolution number 8481-25, Mr. Corley.
This resolution authorizes the abatement of weed and other vegetation nuisance at 2125 Tyler Lane, Hoover, Alabama.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 8481-25.
Second. Have a motion and second for approval. Mr. Martin.
Yes, sir. Weeds and grass are still in violation at this location. And in fact, the home itself is in terrible shape. There has been a tree that has fallen on the home, and it is not secure. The elements have gotten in, and it's in a state where the home itself is a nuisance. And we do anticipate bringing, as part of our budget request next year, an appropriate amount to abate the home itself. But as of right now, the weeds and grass are in violation.
An abatement of the home is a rare occurrence in Hoover, thankfully, but
Yes.
we've had to entertain that before. Any questions or comments on the item from the body? For the public hearing, any member of the public here to speak on behalf of 2125 Tyler? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. We have a motion and a second for approval. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Item number 22, resolution number 8482-25, Mr. Gordon.
This resolution authorizes the abatement of weed and other vegetation nuisance at 2152 Larchmont Circle, Hoover, Alabama.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 8482-25.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval, Mr. Martin.
Yes, sir. As of today, this property is also in violation. I do have an update on this site. Due to his Herculean efforts, Mr. Robert Mack has managed to track down a niece who stands to inherit this property and has made them aware of its current condition. And we do anticipate the niece having the property cut. We will, of course, request that the council go forward with the abatement at this time, just to be on the safe side, so we don't have to start the process over. But we will be working with that next of kin to try to get this cut so the city does not have to. Also, there was a vehicle that was inoperable on this site, and it was a separate nuisance case that we had, and that has been removed. So just a quick status update on this property.
Very good. Any questions or comments from the body on the item? Anyone from the public here to speak on the Larchmont Circle address? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing. We have a motion and second for approval. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Item number 23, resolution number 8483-25, Mr. Gordon.
This resolution authorizes abatement of the weed and other vegetation nuisance at 2337 Tyler Road, Hoover, Alabama.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 8483-25.
Second.
We have a motion and second for approval, Mr. Martin.
Yes, sir. On this particular case, there were portions of the yard that were cut, but the property as a whole was not completely cut, and we still have weeds and grass in violation of our ordinance here.
Any questions or comments from the body on the item? Any member of the public here to speak on behalf of 2337 Tyler? We will close the public hearing with a motion and second for approval. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries. Item 24, resolution number 8484-25, Mr. Gordon.
This resolution authorizes abatement of a weed and other vegetation nuisance at 2882 Wisteria Drive, Hoover, Alabama.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 8484-25.
Second.
We have a motion and second for approval. Any members of the body wish to speak on the item? Any member of the public here to speak at the public hearing? Seeing none, we will close the hearing. We have a motion and second for approval. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? The ayes have it, the motion carries. Item 25, resolution number 8485-25, Mr. Corley.
This resolution grants conditional use approval for operation of an indoor golf facility for property located at 2815 Greystone Commercial Boulevard, Hoover, Alabama, with conditions shown on Exhibit 2 to the resolution.
Mr. President, I move to approve resolution number 8485-25.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval. This conditional use also requires a public hearing. Any member of the body wish to comment or question the item before us? Any member of the public here wish to speak on behalf of this item? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing. We have a motion and second for approval. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries. We will now entertain 3 first readings with no action expected tonight. Mr. Martin updated us at the work session on Thursday, and of course, we will have another round in 2 weeks' time to consider these items for a possible vote, beginning with item number 26, resolution number 8501-25, Mr. Corley.
This resolution authorizes abatement of a weed and other vegetation nuisance at 1301 Daria Street, Hoover, Alabama. A public hearing is scheduled for July 28, 2025. Resolution 850225 authorizes abatement of a weed and other vegetation nuisance at 3460 Sheila Drive, Hoover, Alabama, with a public hearing scheduled for July 28, 2025. And Finally, ordinance number 252678 approves annexation of property located at 3721 South Shades Crest Road, further described in Exhibit 1 to the ordinance, and authorizes the mayor to execute any documents necessary to effectuate such annexation. A public hearing will be held on July 28th, 2025.
Good, thank you, Mr. Corley. That brings us to the end of our agenda. We will entertain any comments or questions from the body tonight. And open up for public comment. Anyone from the public here would like to make a comment before we adjourn? Very good. Thank you for your attendance. We are adjourned.